and welcome back to Dimensional Shift. I thought we would start out the new year with a discussion on meditation and why meditation is the first step to any kind of spiritual path or awakening or exploration of consciousness. Anytime somebody messages me on Reddit or reaches out through the Discord or anything like that I am unfamiliar with, one of my first questions is, do you meditate? And there are a lot of reasons for this, but the primary reason is that meditation is the practice of individualizing yourself from external reality, what we may call external reality. But many people who are really just beginning to understand certain things or have had experiences that they can't explain, don't even know what meditation is or how to do it or the quote unquote right way to meditate. I get that question a lot. What's the right way to meditate? So I thought I would start out our reunion this year, coming back after quite a long time off air, with a discussion on meditation and why it's important. So let's just really start with why meditation is important. So when I first started this path, well, I can't ever really pinpoint a beginning point, but 2 years ago I began meditating regularly, and I found that my mind was full of chaos. The book The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer really illustrates it well, where you have an insane roommate that lives in your head. And for me, I had several roommates in my head that were screaming at each other all the time, and it was very confusing and very chaotic. So when we first sit down to meditate, we may not be able to sit with ourselves very long. We may not be able to sit still very long, and that is very common. So if you're really beginning with meditation, I recommend either starting with small, short durations, 3 to 5 minutes, a few times a day, or beginning with a guided meditation. And some guided meditations, you can find them on YouTube, they're everywhere. Some are around 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how long something can hold your attention. So when we first begin meditating, we begin as an attempt to begin separating ourselves from our thoughts. The mind will go incessantly. And for me, for a very long time, it was a process of just listening to these ranting voices in my mind that was my mind. And I didn't realize it then, but just the process of listening to them is what many people call observing them. So if you want to think of it as listening, if you're more of a listener, like a clairaudient type, it may be better to phrase it that way. But rather than identifying or thinking you're the one that's thinking them, you're just listening to them. And eventually, after time and with practice, they will be seen to be like waves in the ocean or clouds in the sky. They'll just be going by and they don't have to affect you. You don't have to grab onto it. You don't have to identify with it. So really the first stage in any exploration of consciousness is being able to disengage from that surface level of mind. Once you can observe thoughts and thoughts pass without needing to latch onto them, then you can begin going into deeper layers of consciousness. The gateway process is a really great meditation, sort of meditation exploration that if you can get your hands on, I recommend exploring that. That's more primarily for out-of-body experiences and astral projection, but it can be used just to reconnect you to your subtle body, which is something a lot of people need and something we'll be talking about in later weeks. You can also listen to theta waves binaural beats on YouTube. There are zillions of them, but if you can find theta waves or something very hypnotic, sometimes shamanic drumming kind of things, anything that's sort of repetitive or hypnotic, then you can really begin to delve into the deeper layers. And once you can get into that, then you'll start having experiences. But primarily, meditation is meant to still the mind. And by mind, I'm speaking of the thinking mind, what many call the conceptual mind. It took me a really long time to figure out what people meant by conceptual mind. And it's the mind that wants to label, the mind that wants to count, the mind that wants to describe. So the thinking mind, rather than the experiential mind and that would be awareness, or the primordial mind, which is sometimes referred to as the spirit realm, sometimes can be seen as the subconscious, that speaks to us in pictures and in symbology and all of those sorts of things. So that's, to me, the purpose of meditation, is to free yourself from this layer of mind that doesn't want to stop. That's very much the egoic mind that people speak of. As for the right way to meditate, there isn't really a right way to meditate. Again, the purpose is to really silence your mind, so any way that works for you to do that is okay. If you need to use a guided meditation just to give yourself 20 minutes of non-thinking time, that's okay. And then you may want to graduate to music and stretch yourself to hold more accountability and to learn how to navigate that a little bit more and manage your mind more. Sometimes walking meditation is really, really helpful. Oftentimes when people exercise or do a creative activity like painting or molding clay or something, you can get into these flow states, these high performance, people call them flow states. That's when your mind isn't overthinking, and that's when you're just experiencing something and you're doing something for the joy of doing it rather than for the joy of what may come of it or whatever it is. So when my mind gets overstimulated for whatever reason and I find that I can't just sit in meditation, I just go out and take a walk and I look at the trees and I enjoy the squirrels and the birds, and that really helps recenter me into just being in the moment. And that's another way of saying to stop the thinking mind is just presence, awareness, mindfulness. I find that a mindful practice is often more difficult for people in the beginning. I find that presence is something that's really difficult, especially if you've had a lot of trauma and you have a lot of issues being in your body, being in your life situation, whatever it is that's coming up. And we're going to go into shadow work talks later in the episodes of the podcast, so we'll be covering some of that too. But really, it's about acceptance of the present moment. So meditation is just taking time to be still and accepting whatever it is that's happening, whatever it is that's coming up. There are very disciplined forms of meditation that other people might be able to give you more insight on. I am not familiar with a lot of the Eastern types of meditation, but there are a myriad of resources online for meditation. And if there's something else that I haven't mentioned that you are really drawn to, go for it. But again, the point of meditation is to silence the thinking mind and to really open yourself up to receive new experiences. The Zen teachings talk about the listening to and the observing of, and that's really where we're going with all of this. We talk about awakening in a certain sense. Awakening is becoming aware that you are aware, becoming aware of the self-awareness. And there's probably a lot of other things that people can describe it as. And there are a lot of different levels to awakening, so this isn't the end all be all. But it starts with meditation. And your dedication to your meditation practice is a reflection of your dedication to the awakening process. And it's not a judgment, it's not a statement of people who meditate more are better, but it's a reflection. It's kind of a mirror for you. And I'm saying this as someone who has been extremely lazy with meditation recently. I haven't really sat down to meditate in a disciplined way in probably a few months. And that's okay. So don't judge it, just recognize it. And if you want more experiences, if you want to understand more, then sit in meditation more. So meditation can be used for new experiences, psychic experiences, spiritual experiences, communing with nature. It can be used for gnosis or insights or realizations, understandings. That's those moments when you have sudden revelations that, oh, that's what that, like, it's just a realization and an awareness that happens. It's an expansion of your consciousness. It's the knowledge of the self and the expansion of consciousness. But there's so many actual, even physical and emotional benefits to meditation as well. So don't think that it's only for spiritual people. But I think that people talk more about the physical and emotional benefits of meditation right now than they do, at least in the West, than they do of any of the spiritual insights and revelations that come with it. And even after you have expansions in consciousness and you get those integrated and you have all these wonderful understandings, you're still here in your life. It's like Zen full circle is what I call it. You're still here, and it's just, you still have to continue on with your life. So while spirituality and the search for knowing yourself and enlightenment and all of these things are really amazing things to experience, don't think that it's going to be an escape. It's an escape from your mind, your thinking mind, which is likely quite insane as mine was, but it's not like a full escape from physical reality. I'm saying that knowing that, yeah, that's always changeable. I'm only speaking from where I am now. I have times where, yes, you can go out of body, yes, you can go into trance states and go different places within the whatever multiverse or whatever you'd like to call it. But eventually you do come back into your body until your physical death. And so don't give up everything in the search for whatever it is you think you're going to find. And I'm also saying that knowing that the beginning stages in meditation are an individualization process. And I took the path of negation. Some people can take the path of seeing themselves in everything. It's kind of like two paths to the same end point if you go far enough, where you look at an object and you can see that you are also that. I took the path of negation and I had to really disidentify from everything. And so understanding, the first step is understanding you are not your thoughts, you are not your mind, you are not your emotions, you are not your body, you are not your physical life, maybe even going as far as the world's not real. And eventually it will eventually make sense and you'll come full circle and realize, well, it may not be real, but I'm still here. And that's okay. And now that I've freed myself from my thinking mind and all of this gibberish and all of these fears and all of these beliefs underneath that are running all the time that we don't realize are running, now you can get back to life. And now you can maybe enjoy life a little bit and maybe add some benefit, help people, share the love, pass it on. And that's what we do. They say that A person knows wisdom when they plant a tree they know they will never sit under. And I guess that's what it all comes down to, is realizing that we are the ancestors of the future and we need to be good ancestors.